welcome to Speak Today. I'm your host, Rhonda Brunett. Today we have a very special friend of mine, Diane Gedik. She is a mother of a child with autism. Also, I'm very excited to have Angelina Summers, who is a self-contained special education teacher. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming. I just wanted to touch really lightly about raising a child with autism. As mothers, we tend to go through the motions and not feel. And in today's show, Diane has kindly offered to be honest and talk about real issues. So we have our Kleenexes here. And I know I speak at colleges and it just hits me blindsided every time. You know, I'll be talking and all of a sudden out of nowhere the tears come. But anyway, Diane, I would like to know about the birth of your son Joshua. Was there anything abnormal about the birth at all?
No, it was a normal pregnancy. I did, I was pregnant, Joshua was 10, so I was pregnant that summer in Chicago where we had that heat wave where 700 odd people died. And I had gone into premature labor because I was dehydrated, and so they stopped it, put me on bed rest, and then I ended up being late. They induced me 3 days after my due date. The only abnormal thing, and it's not really abnormal because it happens to a lot of women, he had already had, there was a meconium in the uterus, but that's actually, you know, people that don't know, that's, the baby has a bowel movement inside the mother before it's born. And it could be toxic to the child. But other than that, normal delivery, normal little boy, 8 and 9 Apgars, came out screaming.
Were you on any medication at all during delivery?
They did induce me with Pitocin. There was some talk that, you know, after your child is diagnosed with any type of disability, you think back, okay, what did I do wrong? You know, they gave me the Pitocin, I did smoke when I was pregnant.
They had Pitocin too.
Right. So there's some talk that Pitocin, you know, might have been the environmental trigger. There's no fact-based data on that yet.
When did you first start to notice that something might be wrong with Joshua?
Well, he was a slow talker, but I've been around a lot of children. I come from a family of 5. Most second and third children, he's my second son, are slower than the first because the first child was always answering for the second child. And my husband at the time, who is now, Joshua's father, who is now my ex-husband, is Turkish, and he was only speaking Turkish in the home so that both boys would become bilingual. So, so I didn't really worry too much that he wasn't having a lot of words. But around, I don't know, I want to say 14, 15 months, he started doing goofy things. Like, he'd lay on the couch and hang off the edge and watch TV upside down, just, you know, like this. He'd spin Tupperware bowls for like 20 minutes.
My son did that too.
Right. Or he'd stand and spin and not get dizzy, and then he stopped responding to his name and he would stop looking at you and didn't want to be touched. And
How old was he?
15 months.
15 months.
And it was 4th of July. He was going to be 2 in September, so I remember 4th of July, Carroll Stream, we have the big parade down Coon Avenue. We're sitting out there, me and my husband at the time, both boys, and the fire trucks came by, and all. Every other child is looking, and Josh was walking with his head down, did not even pick his head up to look at the noise or the fire engine or nothing. He was walking with his head down like this.
Ears plugged?
Ears plugged. And I'm like, okay, you know, at first I thought, well, obviously he can hear it, but why isn't he responding? You know what I mean?
And you had another child, so you knew this was different.
Different, totally different. So, but up until that time, Josh was walking at 10 months, totally normally developing. mentioned it to the pediatrician, you know, about, it was like July, at the end of July, 15-month checkup, I'm gonna have everything written down in the journal at home, but, and so he's not talking, he's sort of kind of babbling, he does these goofy things, and she said, well, we really don't worry about the talking until they're 3. And I said, okay, you know, because I'm a mom, and, you know, you trust your doctors, whatever they tell you. And it's 2-year birthday. I come from a family, like I said, of 5, so my immediate family, there's about 25 of us with all the nieces and nephews. He was sitting on a chair like this at the kitchen table, and my other son's birthday is September 10th, because it's September 14th, so I always get them together. So we had 2 cakes, and we sang to Jordan, and he started getting, like, agitated. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
all right, there was something going on, you know what I mean? Trying to calm him down. Then we all started singing to him. You would think that somebody was stabbing this child. He got down from the table, knocked the cake off, went into the family room. I had an end table, and he crawled at me and he was banging his head against the wall. I'm like, okay, something is wrong with this child. He didn't want nothing to do with his presence, nothing to do with the cake. Normal, typical 2-year-olds, that doesn't happen. So the next day, I did not even have an appointment at the pediatrician. I was storming in there. I said, something's wrong with my kid. I don't know what it is, but you need to tell me. So from there, we went through a series of tests where they checked for his hearing and to rule things out. And the pediatrician told me he's probably autistic and needs to see a neurologist, and sent me on my way. And I was like,
What went through your mind?
Yeah.
What went
first
through
of
your
all,
mind?
Did you even know what that word meant?
no, autistic. And it's funny because my brother, shortly after the 4th of July thing, Josh was sitting, you know, at the kitchen table doing his babbling, and my brother says to me, Diane, you should have him checked out. He might have autism. I didn't even register. Man, like, what are you talking about? Things that started becoming in the news a little bit. So, no, I didn't know what autism was. My only introduction to autism, like everybody else in that era, was the Rain Man. So, and trying to get in to see a neurologist is very difficult.
I was just gonna say, what are the steps that you took
First
to
of all,
get him diagnosed?
I got a recommendation from the pediatrician, and I called. They couldn't see him for 7 months. 7 months.
That's
Wow.
insanity.
Right. When you have a child that, you know, if your child has a fever, it's not going to take 7 months for a doctor to see your child. If he has chickenpox or whatever. Fortunately, I worked with an attorney years ago whose husband happened to be head of pediatric neurology at Rush Presbyterian St. Louis. So I called in a marker and said, you know, I called her secretary and I said, explain what was going on, and she called me back and she said, Peter, we'll see you in 2 weeks. So I made an appointment, and in my case, I was very fortunate that, you know, 2 weeks after his 2nd birthday, or almost 3 weeks, Josh was seen by a neurologist, and I got the diagnosis of autism. Still not knowing what it was.
When the doctor came in and diagnosed Joshua with autism, were you thinking Rain Man?
I wasn't thinking anything.
Nothing.
I
Almost
was
a
numb.
denial?
I was numb, because I was like, okay, I'm standing here and I'm gonna walk out of here and everything's gonna be fine.
Now, when he confirmed the diagnosis, did he give you any other?
Yes.
Like, did he say, okay, now you need to do this,
Right.
this, and this, or go to this place, or this is what this means?
I have to say,
Oh, you go girl.
he was very helpful. You know, my mom and I were there, and he said, I promise you it's gonna get better. You know, you get a lifelong sentence like
Right.
that, and, you know.
Well, you're
promise.
thinking it's a lifelong
Right.
sentence.
At that time, it is. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so much more nowadays. It's more bad. 10 years, you know,
Right.
8 years ago, or when your
Right.
children was diagnosed, it was a lifelong sentence. Okay, they're just learning nowadays how to teach autistic children, all this kind of stuff. But he got his assistant. You know, she got me into Rainbow Center speech, occupational therapy. She got me in to see a psychologist. They ran all the tests to rule out everything else. Like, you know, he had an MRI, he had a sleep-deprived EEG, just to make sure there was nothing else going on.
Right.
And, right, and he got, in that November, he started speech and occupational therapy at the Rainbow Center. She helped me contact the school district, and
That was gonna be my next
Right.
question. How did you?
as soon as I talked to her, she's like, I was calling the school district the next day.
Sounds like a whirlwind.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what as a parent.
You know what
What steps did you have to take to get him enrolled in special education?
I called Sharon Fries
Okay.
and said, okay, I know what I'm doing.
It's
She's the
Superintendent
superintendent of
of
special
special
education
education.
at Community Consolidated School District 93.
That's a lot.
She was wonderful, wonderful.
She is
She
wonderful.
sent me a wonderful letter saying, okay, he will, come in when he's 3, when he gets a diagnosis. And the school district pretty much took care of everything for me. They scheduled an IEP. For those that don't know, it's an individualized education program. And I met with who was going to be his teacher because he was going to start school at 3 years of age on his 3rd birthday, all day.
Which is wonderful because early intervention is
That's key. That's
Yes.
the key.
My son started at 3 as well.
And I had no idea, what I was going into because I didn't know where to talk to.
Exactly.
I didn't meet you until
That's
years
why
later.
That's
Okay.
why we're doing this. This is why we're doing this.
I just kept going forward like what I'm supposed to do. Still, in the meantime, still trying to raise another child and give him attention and get him into school because he's only 3 years older. And the whole gamut of. I don't even know if I had any emotions at that time.
No, I think you just go through the
You're
motions.
just
Right.
trying to get it started and then.
Right.
Angelina, why is special education preschool so vital for a child with autism?
Well, for a lot of the reasons that Diane already stated in terms of what she experienced with Josh, right away with kids with autism, you notice that there's a lack of communication, there's a lack of social skills, you already have significant behaviors that have already manifested themselves at the age of 3. So basically, and this isn't just for kids with autism, but for any child that has a severe disability, the longer you wait to intervene and to implement strategies to correct whatever is taking place, the harder it's going to be to correct it or to help it along. So early intervention, basically the earlier you can start implementing strategies, the easier it's going to be in the long run.
And not only for the child, but for the parents,
Right,
the family,
right,
the extended family.
right.
Sooner, and I don't want to be cruel, the sooner you get your head out of the sand, and because you need to learn it, and by learning, you know what's coming down the road, because believe me, just the diagnosis is nothing. The times haven't even started yet, you know what I mean, the hard times, they haven't even started.
We're definitely going to touch on some of that. Another question I wanted to ask you, Angelina, special education preschool, can you explain why in that setting they need an occupational therapist and a speech therapist, an autistic child? Why would they need those 2 teachers?
Right. Well, as I just stated before, the earlier you can start any sort of therapy, whether it's PT, OT, speech, the better it's going to be for the child. Your child shouldn't go without services at the age of 5 if you knew something was wrong at the age of 3. It's a disservice to the child, it's a disservice to the parents, and like I just said, it's going to make it even harder for that child to progress where they need to be the longer that you wait. And that's what early intervention is all about. It's giving them everything that they need at an early start to get them on their way. So speech and OT and PT are a crucial part of their education, their IEP and setting their goals.
I wanted to know too, can you touch on some of the activities that take place in your classroom?
Yes. We do a lot of different things in the classroom because
And you
number
can go
one,
into detail too.
okay. Because as we all know, there's a reason it's called IEP, Individualized Education Program, because all the kids are very different. And yes, their needs are similar, but a lot of their needs are very different, and how we address those needs is also a big factor. So in my classroom, I have a variety of age ranges. I don't just have 3rd or 4th grade. I've got kindergartners, I've got 1st graders, I've got 2nd graders.
And you have a self-contained, what's called
Yes.
self-contained
And it's a
class.
self-contained classroom, which means that,
And it is autism only?
yes,
Right.
my
She does
classroom
have an
is
autism
strictly
plan.
autism. I've got, mild to moderate autism, and I've also got some higher functioning kids with autism, but it's all autism nonetheless.
And
like
Josh,
I said,
I don't
it's,
know, did we mention that Josh is in her class?
yeah, I'm his teacher.
Oh, okay.
Did
For
we
the last
mention
3
that?
years, I don't think we did.
No, we didn't. Thank you very much.
Diane likes to throw that out there, but
I have to.
No, that's important.
But like I was saying, a lot of the things that we do with the kids, basically our job, my job, and the people that I work with, our job is to teach them how to live. Our job is to teach them how to be independent, how to be successful, how to manage their own lives without always having us there. There's a lot of different things that we do to get them to that point. We do, in terms of teaching them new skills, we use the discrete trial method, which is also referred to as the ABA method, the low loss program. You'll hear it called a variety of different things, but it's all essentially modeled after the same
And ABA
thing.
stands for Applied
Behavioral
Behavioral
analysis,
Analysis.
yes. And basically what it is, specifically focusing on the word discrete trial, is taking larger skills and breaking it down into smaller tasks. For example, we use discrete trial every day. Regular ed teachers use discrete trial a lot, they just don't realize that you're doing it. For example, when we learned our ABCs, typically you're not going to learn the whole alphabet in one shot, A through Z.
Right.
You're going to learn parts of it at a time, you're going to learn it in a certain way, and that's how you catch on. Discrete trial is the same way. We're taking a larger skill, we break it down into segments. Once they get this part, then we move on to the next part, and then we bring it all together at the very end.
How I relate to it, the kids learn how to type now in 3rd grade, but being as old as I am, when I was in high school, I related to typing. For a week, you'd stay on
The same line.
Okay, once you got that down, then you moved on to the next
Right.
one. So
Right.
that's
And you
basically-
build off of
right.
that, and the whole goal is obviously learn to use the whole
And then
keyboard.
put them all together,
So the
right?
same exact thing. Another thing that we really work strongly with the kids on is increasing their independent skills. It is very easy for a child with autism to get used to being prompted. Do this, go, they're always used to people being there, helping them along. Well, even at the age of 5, I'm already trying to wean that off for some kids and give them a task and teach them how to do it independently.
Right.
So we do a lot of teach tasks, we do a lot of work boxes, which are basically very structured tasks, whether it's putting something in a bin and setting it over here, but it's structured in the manner that the child knows exactly what they're supposed to do, where it's supposed to go, and what they need to do when they're done with it. But what it's teaching them is how to be independent.
Right.
And we're always giving them skills when we're working on the whole independency. We're always using things that we already know they know how to do. So I would never give a child with autism or any child with a disability a brand new task and expect them to do it on their own.
Right.
You or I don't work that way either,
Right,
a lot
right.
of times depending on what it is. So, but independence is a big thing, whether it's with work, hygiene, walking down the hallway. I have kids, that are taking things back and forth in the hallway. I have kids that are working on pre-job skills, pre-vocational skills, meaning they might be doing tasks in the office, whether it's sorting the mail or, sorting papers or putting supplies away. I have kids that are, cleaning the countertops in the bathroom and doing odd jobs around the school, mainly my older kids, my 3rd and my 4th graders, just because there's no reason for me to wait until they get to middle school or high school to teach them how to have a job.
Right.
Once again, going back to that early intervention, the earlier I can start doing that, the easier it's going to be for them once they get to middle school and high school
Exactly.
to already be able to do those things because I've already introduced it to them. So,
And from a mother's mother's point of view, I mean, I think Rhonda was a little bit more stronger of a person than I was. Josh is my baby. You know, he sort of kind of let things go where his teacher doesn't let things go.
No, I don't. And Josh knows it.
Well, you also work with Josh in the summer
Yes.
as well, so that is very important
Yes.
too. So he knows you very well, and he knows that he can't get away with things with you. And the follow through.
It's
Tell me
very
about
important.
follow through.
Oh my gosh, follow through is something. It's like hanging around.
Well,
It's okay,
because
I'm so guilty because
follow through is so important, and if, as an educator, one of the most important things that I try to get my parents to understand is how important follow through is, because you know, we're doing all these things in the classroom setting. We're teaching them all these skills. We're
So you're working
expecting
as a
them,
team.
yes.
You
And
the
there's a
parents.
certain level of expectation that I have for your child, and that I would hope that as a parent you would have for your child as well.
Right.
But in having said that, I also know too that home life is very different
Well, we're going to
from
talk about
school.
that.
I know that the way school is structured is very different to how your home is structured, because you've got 10 million different things on your plate that we don't necessarily have going on at school. We're better able or better equipped to handle certain things that are just harder for you to do at home. We have strategies that we can implement, and we have board maker, and we have pictures, and we have all these wonderful things that we can buy or have bought for us or make that you just might not be able to do at home. So I do know that follow through can be difficult if you're not shown how to do it, and if you don't have someone there helping you.
That is why it is very important that the parent get involved
Yes.
with the school, and
Yes.
you become a team, so
Yes.
you know what's going on with your
Right.
child, correct?
Correct. I try to keep the parents informed as much as possible, whether it's through daily notebooks, emails,
That's
phone
important.
calls. Just the other day, I had the parents come in for a brief conference just because I just had things I wanted to talk to them about in person. I didn't want to do it over the phone or in a notebook. I
Right.
wanted to talk to them face to face about it. But you know, like I said, all the things that we're doing at school are things that we need to be doing as a team with the parent, because it's only going to help the child as they get older. And basically what we're doing is we're teaching the child, like I said, how to be independent, how to do those things on their own.
So
And
naturally,
I know
you
they
wanna
can do
follow
them,
through.
so naturally,
Right.
it's things that I want the parent to follow through with also, because it's only going to make your life easier at home.
Right.
Talking about home, Diane,
Mm-hmm.
please go into some detail about what a typical day is like in the Gedik household.
Now,
Now.
today, or
You can touch on, you know, what it was like before and what it's like now.
now, I mean, I think it's
Like,
Josh.
when you get up in the morning, what takes place?
Well, when I get up in the morning,
I really want you to be, you know, honest.
well, you know, I'm a single working mother, so that makes it just as more difficult to be raising children, let alone having a child with special needs. His father's involved and takes him, but not to the extent with the schools and the doctors and the therapists and all that kind of stuff. I'm very fortunate that my mother lives with me. My mom and dad have lived with me for the last 11 years, before Josh was even born. Mom and Josh are buddies. So Josh sleeps with Mom every night. So typical morning is, you know, we get up, I get Jordan's lunch made. That's my older son.
Talk a little louder.
Get Jordan's lunch made, and this is all before 7, and then I go down and get Josh. It's very easy to get out of bed. It's just that when he walks upstairs, he goes on the couch and covers his head with a blanket and tells me, no, okay, no, okay. I tell him he's got to go to school. And so that takes me about a good 20 minutes. And Angelina will attest to how many times Josh is tardy at school, because at least twice a week.
And what do you,
And
what
how
do you
many
do when
cards
you
do
go?
you have framed on your wall at
I get a
home?
letter from the school district.
You go in there and you say to them,
Send me to detention because, you know, what do you want me to do? you know? Or Pat, who was the wonderful lady in the office.
Young, yeah.
Yes.
She, Diane, I'm getting your letter. I'm like, you know what, let the school board come to my house and get Josh ready for school and do what I gotta do, and then let them give me a tardy no.
That's right.
You know,
That's
hey,
right.
no,
That's
basically lately,
Mhm.
since Josh has been on his medicine, but we'll get to that.
That's
you know what I mean?
good.
But Josh has matured, and I think he really enjoys school now, and it's been such a routine. But this has been a routine. This same little yellow bus has been getting him for the last 7 years. Okay, we make his lunch. He cannot go anywhere until Sesame Street is over with. So if Vicky, the bus driver, is out in front and Sesame Street's not over with, I have to go outside and say,
You have to wait.
you have to wait
Yeah.
1 minute, because otherwise, if I turn the TV off, we're not going to have a good day. He'll be pinching, he'll be screaming, he doesn't understand why he cannot finish watching his program.
You're interrupting his routine.
Right, and Josh is pretty nonverbal as to, I mean, he has words, but like when he gets frustrated, he doesn't know how to say, I want to finish watching my show, or why can't I, or whatever.
So he communicates.
By pinching, or, you know, throwing himself
His
on the ground.
mannerisms, he's
or- Right.
he's got a lot of mannerisms that let you know when he's upset or getting to that
And his
point.
learning,
Or, yeah.
thanks to Angelina and the team at school, he's learning how to try and control himself.
His coping skills, and not to jump ahead, but this
Right.
year, his coping skills, if anything, he's improved on, and he's improved on a lot, but that's been one of the hugest hurdles that I think he's finally starting to
Right.
cross over is coping.
That's
and,
big.
and realizing
That's
that, you
huge.
know, I don't like what I'm doing, but I gotta do it because it's not gonna go away if I don't do it, so I
Right.
might as well do it. Or there's noise in the background, I don't like that noise, I know I don't like it, but I just gotta,
Right.
and you can see it, the process
think-
in his
and
face
that
when
comes
he's
along-
trying to
right.
keep it together,
And
you
that
can
comes-
see it.
You've given him tools when
Yes.
there is something going on that's disturbing him, correct?
Yes.
To cope
Yes,
in class, right?
yes,
Can you just name one or two
Yes.
things that you do?
well, Diane already mentioned before that, one of Josh's behaviors is he's a pincher. When he gets really upset, that's, you know,
Well,
something
he
that
used
he
to be a
does.
writer, we graduated.
Yeah. So, which is good. But starting
when
last year, actually even before last year, one of the strategies that we were trying to implement with him is, you know, instead of pinching me, you know, squeeze your hands, squeeze your, you know, do this, do
Right.
this. So he does
He does
a lot of this, as opposed to where, I mean, just last year, he would not hesitate to reach out for you. Well, now.
And you can see it, I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
Even
now
lunch.
he will start doing this, and he will really start squeezing his own hands. And also another thing that we started doing with him is when we saw those triggers, or, you know, the flames kind of
after
starting
you
to
get
brew,
to know an
red
autistic
flags.
the
child.
red flames.
Right,
Josh's his hands are like his sensory. That's where it
Right.
all is for him, is
Right.
in his hands. So when I would start to see him getting upset, knowing what was about to follow, I would ask him, Josh, do you want me to squeeze your hands? And we taught him, he'd go like this. And then I would take his hands, so he would shoot, as soon as he would shoot them out, and then I would just knead and squeeze his hands
right.
as hard as I could to provide the input in the deep pressure that he needed to help
comfort
calm him.
Right.
And that helps. That was one thing that we did, which really helped him learn how to cope and kind of get through that. And then another thing too, I realized pretty early on that, you know, when he was having behaviors, number one, timeouts don't work for him. Josh is not a timeout kid. But also too, the more that you interact with him, and it's not even necessarily about timeout, but time away in a desk for Josh doesn't work. If Josh needs time away, he needs it in like a back area, in a corner,
Away
in a
from
place
everybody.
that's comforting, away from everybody else.
Because the more you try and talk to him,
Yes.
the more you try and calm him down,
The worse
the
it
worse
gets.
he gets.
He
That's
just
the way.
needs total you out of the picture, and to just work through it himself.
And you know what, and not to interrupt, but like, something like that at home, now Angelina we're in the process, I have a room downstairs where, well, my mother is 72.
You gotta incorporate this into your day.
Right, it is, but I'm not home
Uh-huh.
until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And my mother is 72 years old, and,
Oh, she's gonna love that.
right. But he has been,
Yeah.
he has been, when you say, go to your room,
Right.
he has been. Sometimes, before we've been doing this though, you try to, you gotta stay near him so he doesn't destroy the entire house, because
Yes. 'cause
it
you
escalates. He has knocked over my 60-inch TV, because he's not a small little boy.
How big is Josh?
Josh is
Way
Angelina's
more than
height.
me.
Angelina's height.
He's about, I'm 4'11", and Josh is just about as tall as I
I think he's
am.
about 4'10",
And
he
he
weighs
weighs
159 pounds.
Holy cow.
definitely at
A
least
linebacker.
a good 50 pounds more than I do.
Defensive
Right.
lineman.
But yet, he knows he's boss.
Right. No, the one time he had you on the floor, he had your hair. He had
It's all
you on the
good. It's all
ground.
good, you know?
Oh, so go ahead. When you get him, you finally get him finished with the Sesame Street, and then what?
Then I say nothing, and everything is routine, same thing every single day. While he's watching Sesame Street, I go up to him and I have a glass of water and his 4 pills that he takes. So he's watching Sesame Street and taking his pills at the same time, which we just learned how to swallow a year ago, which was a big thing. And then I go back over to the sink and I say, Joshua, bus is coming. Turns the TV off. He walks over and he stands there. I said, okay, we're going to brush your teeth. So he brushes, and then of course mommy has to help. And then he turns the water off. And it's so every day. We walk, he's going to make sure the toy room door is closed, the front hall closet door is closed, the bathroom door is closed, and his backpack has to be sitting by the dryer. You know what I mean? So then he picks it up, and then we go stand outside and wait for the bus. You know, so I mean that's calm now. A couple years ago, you know, when he was still, you know, 120 pounds, I remember physically having to drag him out, lift him on the bus, kicking and screaming. He used to have to wear a weighted vest on the bus because
When he was kicking and screaming like that, what are you feeling at that time? I mean, what are you feeling honestly? Are you about to lose control? I mean, do you feel like that? Not like you're gonna hit him or anything, but I mean, what are you feeling inside?
My poor little boy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why can't he tell me what he doesn't want to do, or what he, you know, and
Or why doesn't he understand?
Why
that
doesn't he
this is just
understand,
how-
or,
yeah.
or why does this stuff happen in the world, and you know, all those stupid thoughts run through your head. And just to go off the subject for a little bit, having another child, Rhonda has Jordan, and all of her attention could be focused on Jordan. Where I have Jordan, I have a Jordan too, Jordan and a Joshua. My older son was starting religious classes over at St. Luke's, and 6, 7 years old, and Josh had just been diagnosed. He was having minor tantrums and stuff, and I remember I had both of them in the bathtub, and I got him out, and Jordan says to me, Mom, because he was learning about Jesus and miracles, and